Hello, welcome back. In this video, I'm going to show you how to take one of these Adventure Force metal racer bodies from Walmart on the toy grade car to an SCX24 body that is actually a good performer. And right out of the box, these panels are made of metal and they're very heavy. So I'll show you the process that I do to lighten it up. I believe they started at about 75 grams, and we'll get them down to 1/3 that weight. And it'll actually be about 25 grams when we're done. And 25 grams is about 10 to 15 grams lower than a stock body. So they do really well once you get them on an SCX24. It takes some doing, but it's not that hard. All right, the nice thing about this Adventure Force body is it's super easy to remove. You don't even have to take the car out of the package to do it, and it's just 4 screws that comes right out. Let me get in there to pull that. And there it is. That leaves a good toy grade RC car for some kid if you want to donate it. They'll love to have it still. It looks kind of like a stealth fighter on wheels. It's still cool, but this isn't one I would run. It's toy grade, and it has a cheap controller with push buttons for everything, and it's ready to run. There's a body, or the batteries are still in it, except for the batteries for the controller, and comes with the 1-cell LiPo. Actually, it says requires 1.5 alkaline batteries for the controller, not included. This isn't something I want to keep, so it's gone. What I do care about is the body, and another thing I don't care about is this little tire here that's fake and plasticky looking. It just adds weight up high for no reason. So I removed that, and it's gone. So all it's got is a screw in here, and I punched that out, and this is almost ready for use. One thing you'll notice is it's heavy, and I'll show you how heavy. 67 grams. I'll slide that into view, and we want to get that down to about, I've had some of these that were 73, so I'm not sure why this one's lighter, but we're going to get it down to around 25, maybe a little more, a little less, but taking that much off the top makes a huge difference. And what you need to do from here is just remove all the panels, but definitely save the screws, because you're going to need them to put them back in. And it's really simple. I bought myself a power screwdriver a while back, and it's awesome. This is why these bodies don't perform right out of the box. 6.4 grams for just a side panel. Some people don't even run panels. They just leave it open, and it looks cool. But I don't like doing that. What I like to do is make copies of these out of Lexan, and then I'll show you how I prepare them from there. In the meantime, I'm going to take the rest of these screws out. With all the body panels off, I just stacked up the panels by themselves, all 4, and that's over 40 grams worth right there. And this is the main reason why these bodies don't perform. So these will never go back on the chassis. This is the chassis without any panels on it. 24.4. So it's quite a bit lighter already, and I'm going to make it even lighter because I'm going to get rid of that interior, and then I'll show you what I do about it. And easiest way to get rid of the interior, and keep these screws, by the way, you'll need them later if you do the same type of installation that I do. And I'm going to put them right back into those holes after I take this interior panel off. And I'll show you why I remove it. Remember, every bit of weight you get rid of on the top is weight you don't have to compensate for on the bottom. So there goes another 10.5 grams off the top. That brings us down to 13.6, and that's pretty light. We're going to start adding weight back to it, and I'm going to show you how I do that. Alright, here it looks like I have a lot of extra body panels, you know, 2 hoods. Why would I have 2 hoods? Why would I have 3 side panels and 2 roofs? Well, these are the metal ones. These are paper. And what I'm going to do with this is just I flattened these out when I bought my first body and photocopied them. And I flattened them out, and from there I can make the paper templates just by photocopying it. I have some in the in one of my closets over a ways that are color photocopies onto photo paper that I did at Staples. And how I got the grayscale camouflage car, the black and gray one, is I had the blue body panels, and what I did was just had them photocopied in black and white, and it turned out super cool. But this is what they look like factory, and I'll show you the how it turned out on the car. This is the completed car with just a black and white photocopy of the blue panels, and blue looked okay. It was alright, but I just thought it looked really cool to have the black and gray color scheme, so I left it. And I may do another blue one someday. I've got some blue copies already that I could use. I'll show you those. Alright, this is my color photocopies on a piece of photo paper. And I'm not going to do blue tonight just because I have something else in mind. But this is how I would do it. And in order to seal these and make them stick to a piece of Lexan, what I would do is I'd put a piece of packing tape on the front and then on the back side as well, and then cut it out, and then the photo paper is sealed within the packing tape, and then you can spray glue it and do whatever you need to do. But what I'm going to do next is print some things on my printer, because I'm going to do my own custom stuff this time, and then maybe sticker it up. When you buy products from RC companies, they usually come with the sticker pack, and I really like the Trio wheels, and they have a cool logo. Interco has some blue ones. If you're into solid blue, those are kind of cool. And Patagonia's come with the Milestar sticker pack, and you could do that if you're into orange. But you can do anything. You could print anything you want off and cut it out. And I'm just going to maybe do some personalized logoing for this. And I'll show you how I do that. Alright, for a minute here, I'm going to jump back over to the car that I used to call the Test Mule. That was the basis for the E1 that I built a while back. This is now going to turn into a brushless car eventually. And in the meantime, I'm going to run it with this. This one is the one that has the pretty extreme articulation on it, even without being modified with the E1. You can see that just background on the car, I've swapped out the location of the battery and the ESC. I've got the ESC located in the back, and this is the one that has the shaved on-off switch because it was inside of the E1. It's back on the Test Mule, and we're gonna put this body on it tonight, and we know that we're gonna do that using magnets, just like on my other cars. I like to do magnets on the back side of the vehicle and posts on the front, and that way it has a couple of posts to index it. Here's how I do the magnets. I'll take a body clip and kind of center that on the magnet on the body clip, and then this is the cleanest way that I know how to do this without making a super big gluey mess, gluing my hands and just being a disaster. And I've got the glue on the magnet now, and I'm gonna just put that right on the rear body post, just like that. Hold it for 15-20 seconds, let that glue set up. And I'll do that on the other side as well, and that will prepare it for the body that we're going to put on it later on. But this glue set's pretty fast. It's just CA glue, and let's see, it's already set. I don't know how, not quite. I moved it too soon, but it does set pretty quick. I'll just leave it alone next time. Get a different body clip for the second side. Alright, I'll pull that off in a little bit, and I'll glue the other side, and then I'll show you how to do the floor of this with Lexan, and that way you won't really add any weight. There's the other side glued. I just left the body pin sitting on it so that I don't disturb it while it's drying, and that's now ready for later. I'll put that aside, and the next thing I'll do is create a floor, just a template, and this will be what we actually use to cut out the Lexan for the bottom part. I kept these screws here from the interior, and we're going to reuse those, and they'll be useful for putting the floor back in. I'm going to grab a pencil real quick. Alright, this part is not rocket science. I'm just going to look straight down from the body without moving it and just sort of mark some points for a general idea of where, just you're marking out the corners basically, where you want the body to terminate. And if you get it wrong, it's fine. Just try it again. There's no real science here. And then I usually leave on this front part, these screws are ahead of this line here, so I'll just kind of put a line here and just connect the dots, and this will mark out the boundaries of where I need to cut in order to make this work out. And it's okay to cut it a little bit bigger than it needs to be. I tried to photocopy an old body, but it came out too small, so I thought I'd just start over with a new piece. And what I'll do is I'll cut this out and then see how it fits inside of here. Alright, I cut a little bit outside the lines just because it doesn't hurt anything to do that. And you can always take material off if you decide that it's too wide. And it is. And that's completely fine. But what I'm doing is getting the basic floor plan for the floor of this vehicle, and this will provide a foundation for the body mounts later with the magnets and everything. Alright, just going to shrink this to fit. And it's okay to leave it a little long, even if, you know, front to back is fine. You can always clip it later. Side to side is more important to get that right, just for the look of the thing later on. And it doesn't have to be perfect, just get it kind of close. Let's see, that's pretty good. If you decide you want it wider, somewhere and narrow somewhere else, you can still do that. Just add a piece of tape where it's too narrow, and you can build it back out. I'll show you how I do that. I got one side too narrow, so I just added tape to the design and built it back out so that it fits. And this is not science, you're just trying to get it to where it looks kind of right. And if it's not perfect, it's okay. Don't sweat it. I'm just going to do a little bit of quick trimming and fitting, and get right back to you. When I'm fitting this panel, I want the back edge of the paper to line up with this bar here, because later on I'm going to put 2 zip ties on it, and it will have a nice foundation to sit on by doing that. And you'll have the screws ahead of that, but it's pretty nice when it sits there and doesn't move. You'll like that later on with your truck. So get this as good as you can. Like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. We're going to use a clear piece of Lexan and paint one side of it black, and then put magnets on it. I got that pretty close. I'll try to photocopy this, make it a PDF file, and try to make it available somehow if anybody's interested in using this template here. And what I'll do is I'll make the plastic one, and I'll do the PDF of the plastic one. That way it has the screw holes already set up for you. You know, when you go to the bakery and you buy a box of something and it comes in a plastic container, well, I saved that plastic because later on it can be useful for making free Lexan parts, because it's garbage and I'm just reusing it for something else. I'm going to tape this down, cut around it, and then I'll have the foundation for the floor of my cage. Have that template taped down to the plastic. Just going to make some cuts around it. I'm not going to cut through my tape yet, just because I'm not done with that part yet. Plus, it's not hard to cut a straight line. I've actually created my first SCX24 bodies that you saw in earlier videos completely out of this repurposed plastic, just because it's so lightweight. Just like racing, rock crawling is dependent on weight control, as well as other forms of motorsports. The more precisely you can place weight in good areas, the better it will be. I'm going to take these screws back out, and then I'll be able to mark them exactly where I want the holes to go. And get the last one. Alright, this clear piece should go in pretty nice now. And it does. Very nicely. And with the screws out, it's really easy to mark these holes. And I use an X-Acto knife and just basically put the center on that hole, and I'll start it. And once I have one going, I'll put a screw in it, and then line that up on the back. And once it has a screw in one, you can have a nice foundation for future screws as you're installing these. But I just spin this in. I don't have a body reamer, so this is how I do it. It works great. It's how I've always made holes in Lexan. It's probably not the best way, but it works just fine. Boom. All right. If you wanted to, you wouldn't have to paint this, but I like to just because I think it turns out really fancy looking in the end. But for now, I want to secure this down. And once I have one in it, you can basically make the rest of the holes perfect once it has that index. Part of this is making sure that everything is indexed properly. Alright. And I see I left a little bit of extra material ahead of the screw holes, and that's okay. The screw hole will be right here, and I'll cut that. I'll trim this later on. The hood will actually cover to back here to this line right here. So if I cut that out, it doesn't even have to be pretty, because your hood piece goes back far enough to cover everything. So that's why it doesn't matter that much. All right, I'll get the rest of the holes drilled out and show you how to prepare it from there. Also, when you're reaming these holes out, it's okay to make them a little bit bigger than they need to be, because they don't actually take the force of the screw. The body behind it does, and if they're a little bit wide, it will prevent the floor of this body from flexing if you don't get the holes exactly perfect with the body. Otherwise, if they're too close to, or if they're too far apart, it'll kind of bend it, or if they're too, if they're not the same, it won't lay flat. So if you make the holes a little bit wider than they need to be, it's self-indexing later on for the other screws. So don't worry if it's not perfect. Get it as perfect as you can, and then just make them a little bit bigger if you need to, so that it lays flat. At this point, I've got it all set. It's ready to go in. What I'm going to do is scan this on my scanner and get a PDF file of it, and that way if anybody else wants it, I can make an attempt to send it to you. Beyond that, I'm going to wash this with dish soap, get it really clean, and then kind of tape it to a pencil and spray one side of it black. And then the other side will be left up, and it'll look real glossy and nice. Alright, I've got my floor panel taped to a pencil, and now I'm going to spray paint it so it's nice and black, and then this side will be super glossy and nice. This will be the upside. There's my new floor panel. This is the upside. This is the downside, still wet. So this is going to be drying while I work on the rest of the car. Alright, pardon my voice. It's getting late tonight, and when I get tired I kind of don't talk as well. So this is my panel that I got done painting. It's dry now, and the last thing I'm going to do tonight before going to bed here is just screw this thing down and make sure it's in the right place, and it'll give it a chance for the paint to harden up tomorrow before proceeding on this. And I'm just going to get it lined up, put the screws in, and call it a night. I'm just putting the last screw in now for the floor of this thing. And when you put it together, it doesn't have to go in super tight. In fact, you might not even want it tight at all, and that's probably a good thing. That, I wish, was just about another 3 or 4 millimeters farther back, but it'll be okay. it's far enough back that I don't have any gaps when viewed from the top. And later on in this build, I'm going to put a hole in it in a zip tie, probably somewhere either here or here, one of these two, inner or outer, because when it goes onto the car, I'll put a magnet on top like this. There's a magnet here and here. I don't know if you can see that. I went ahead and put black Sharpie on it so you can't really see it that good, but that's a way to hide the attachment points. But you can see how it's going to look now when it's together. And when you put these bodies on, you have to consider where the tire is going to rest. And I'm going to have to figure out something with the body posts, because I'm going to have to figure out where these come up from the bottom. On other trucks, I've had them offset a little bit. On this one, I'm going to have to figure something out. I might have to use the Jeep front mount and just do a single point hole right in the middle here. But when these flex, it has to not hit the frame of the chassis. Otherwise, you create issues for yourself. With my other ones, I was real careful, and they just barely touch. It's not enough to bind anything. I'm going to try to get them in the same relative position with the mudslingers on the chassis I'm building now. If necessary, I really don't want to offset it, but might have to a little bit. Plus, this one does a little more articulation than the others. So maybe it would be good to have the nose just a bit higher than previous trucks with the greater articulation. I'll probably end up doing that. Anyway, that's a chore for tomorrow, and that's as far as I'm going to get with it tonight. But with the floor in, it looks pretty good. I probably should have left a little more there, but it's fine. It won't hurt anything. I'll just bend it, and it'll be okay. Close enough. Well, after a night of deciding what I wanted to do with this truck, I didn't know. So what I'm probably going to do is just trace this out on white and make this a trio themed body. I was going to do something really different, and I still can later, but these are previously traced out and cut paper ones, and I'm going to tape them down to just a white sheet of paper, and that way I can draw out all the places where the screw holes need to be and get it exactly the same size as one of these metal pieces. So that's what I'm going to do next, is just lay them down, cut them out, trace them, and get the white paper pieces ready. And I'll do a different body later when I'm more motivated to do something creative. Right now I just want to get this done and have it look cool, and it will be cool. And truly, if you're watching, I could use more stickers. This part is not science. I'm just gonna sort of tape them down so I can still have access to those holes, because I know the holes are in places where I would have used them before, and they do fit onto the car very well, using those little holes that are pre-cut into this paper. So once I mark out the spaces for all of these, I'll tape them down and then just cut the rest of it out. I got 3 pieces taped down. I don't know where my other piece is for this, so when I go to do the other side, I'll just flip it upside down and tape it onto the paper, and then I'll have something I can use to cut the rest of the shape out. But right now I'm just going to cut these out individually. Once you make the final cut through the tape, your template piece comes off, and what you're left with is the piece that's going to go on the car. And don't worry about the black dots on there. That's where the screw holes are going to go, and the screw heads will completely cover those black dots that you're going to cut out anyway. Now is I'm just going to cover them in packing tape on both sides, and that will give it a little bit of durability, and it will also seal it, because next step is spray glue. So I'm going to do this to each of these pieces. The hood is a little bit larger, and you got to be real exact when you line that one up, because it takes 2 pieces of tape. And then I go over this and make sure it's nailed down really well, that tape. And then I'll go back and cut the tape off before I do the next step. Again, these bodies are probably not ones that you'll want to drive through water, but I drive them indoors. This is a indoor winter kind of hobby when you can't go outside. And so my holes are still there. That'll show me where I need to put them to screw it back onto the body. And that's going to go on right there. And we'll put a little fold in this here to match the stock one. Has a little bit of an angle there, you can see it. And I'll match all these, so it'll turn out cool. Bear with me, it doesn't look like anything yet, but it will. Let me get the rest of these taped. Alright, believe it or not, we're getting sort of close to the end now, and I'm going to get some more Lexan from my stash and 3M spray glue, and I'm going to spray glue the side that does not have the pencil marking on it. So I'll get that for you. Here's where it can get a little messy. I use this 3M contact adhesive, and I will spray this over a trash can, because when it comes out it flies everywhere. It kind of makes a web pattern. There it goes. And it does have a smell. It's pretty thick. So I'll spray it on the plastic that I'm going to put the piece on, and I'll kind of let that sit for a second. I'm going to spray this side that does not have the pencil marks real quick, and you let that flash for a second, and that way once you go to put it on the paper, it's ready to be stuck down. And I had the tape on both sides of this paper. That way during this portion of the process it doesn't mess up the nice look of the paper, because if you saturate it, it'll mess it up. And I'm going to try to not get spray glue all over the part that I'm going to keep. So try to keep that clean. It does make a mess on your hands, and it's going to be there a while. That's how it is. So I'll let that sit for a minute. I might, yeah, I'll just let this sit. Do the rest of the pieces the same way. Keeping the front side clean is the trick. Well, for the rest of these panels, I ended up just spray gluing the plastic piece, and not even the body panel that I'm going to keep, because it goes on thick enough. I can just stick it on, press it down. It's going to goo out of the edges a little bit. That's okay. And with that, the Bob Ross portion is over. No happy accidents today. Everything went well. I'm gonna let that glue dry so that I can now cut it out of the plastic. My previous pieces are dry, so I'll get busy with that. It will kind of glue up your scissors a little bit, but don't use any scissors that you're real attached to, because you're going to have to clean them when you're done, because they will have a bit of adhesive stuck to the blades. If you're okay with that, cut away. And all that's left to do after these are cut out is to get my razor knife back out, open up the holes where those dots are, and then I'll get the trail stickers out, sticker it up so it looks cool, and bolt them onto the car. Be right back. Alright, now I've got all my panels cut out, and I'm going to let that spray glue on the back of them just kind of sit for a little bit because it's still a little bit tacky. But do you remember earlier when we looked at these panels? They came out to be 40.3 grams, and that's pretty heavy for the top of a crawler. So if you'll remember that number, I'm going to take all of these that we just made, and all together these weigh 11. So actually, yeah, right at 11. We've cut the weight by this body. Actually, it's not even that much. I'll put this back on and see what it says. So it's gone from 40.3 grams down to 7.7 for the body panels, and that is a major weight loss. Once we put this on, 26 grams. And I remembered why the original bodies that I weighed came in much heavier than the one that we did. I'd already taken the spare tire off, and that would have brought it up to about 74 grams. So we've got a thing that went from 74 grams down to 26. I have a series of screws to put in that will probably add about maybe 3 grams total when I get them all done. And once I get the body panels, oh, I forgot to say this. These body panels are sort of curved, and what I'll do is once these have set up a little bit, I'll make sure that the curves match. And here's little extra bits of spray glue that's stuck on there. But anyway, I'll bend these to match the curves so that when I bolt them out of the car, they look right. So that's next. The hood one is the only one that really matters much on if you get the exact bend right. Of course, the roof is the same way. You'll use the same process. What I do is I'll take the original part and line it up with the new part, tape it down so it looks right, and then there's where they diverge. So I'll take a piece of tape, and this way I get the line perfectly straight. You get one chance to bend this, and if you mess it up, it's messed up forever. But I don't know if you can see that bend. It lines up pretty straight with my tape piece. What I'll do is I'll take this to the edge of a table or something, line it up on that exact line, the tape line, and then just bend it down, and it'll be the perfect shape that will match this. And I'll do the same for the front of the roof. The front of the roof has a little bend right at the beginning, and I'll put that same bend in it here, and it'll look pretty good once it's done. The neat thing about this is if you do a quality job with it, unless somebody was sitting there inspecting your car, they'd never know it wasn't the metal piece. That's pretty cool. If you're one of these Photoshop guys that can make really cool Photoshop things, you can custom do your own paint scheme on these. I'm not, and my brother does a lot of that, but I might try to get him to design out some skins that I can attach to more Lexan like this. Alright, I've got all my pieces pre-bent now, And what I'm going to do is just use my razor knife and go around and open these holes up so they can be bolted onto the frame. Then the next step is mounting the body to the chassis, and there's a little bit of art in that, and I'll show you that once we get the holes drilled. And this is what it looks like with the body panels bolted onto the car. The next problem we have to solve is how to actually make it stay there. But this is how the body turned out. I'm pretty happy with it. It's got two sides. It's got the red side and it has the white side. And the reason for that is the stickers were red and white. And that's what I had. I think it looks better when viewed from that side, but it's turning out pretty cool. I do not have body posts. Actually, I had it on backwards. It goes like this. But anyway, didn't look any different. I didn't have body post because this used to have a Jeep front. So I'll show you how I deal with that next. So the next thing I need to figure out, like we said before, was how to deal with this issue of no body posts, and there's an easy way to do it. I have a TB04 Tamiya four-wheel drive drift car, and what I noticed is this parts tree has a portion of plastic that I cut out that is exactly the shape of this hole. How about that? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this in half and then put holes through it, and then this will become the body mount. I'm going to use a Dremel to sort of round out the top here so it looks nice, and then use some set screws right here to make it stick where I want it. And maybe I don't even need to do that, but I'll do something. Anyway, that is going to become my body post for this car, and that's pretty cool. There's a little bit of art to mounting the body on these cars, and the way I go about doing that is I basically push the suspension all the way down and move the body forward and back, and look for the place where it's going to give clearance to the entire car, but I might give a little bit more to the front just because the wheels have to turn. And then I'll look up inside of this and see where the body post is hitting, and it's right up in there. That's where the body post comes out of the top, and unfortunately it's going to hit this bar right here. So it's not a problem. This bar will provide enough structure for the forward part of this hood. I'm just going to cut this bar out and the one next to it here as well, and those poles unfortunately line up right about here and right about here, so the pole has to come out. I'll cut that, and then I'll keep working and figure out the body post from there. These pieces that we made from the Tamiya parts tree, Tamiya, whatever you say it, are going to need a hole put through them in order to have the body pin go through. And that's a little tricky because these aren't super thick, and I usually just heat up a needle with a candle and shove it through there. I burn it through, and if need be I'll open it up with a little pin file again. And in order to find the exact place for the holes to be cut, I'm holding this in front of a light and letting the light shine up through those mounting holes on the chassis, and I pulled the pins out so we could shine the light through them. But that right there is where the light came through, and I got a little smudge there I need to take care of. But that's where the light came through. That's where the holes are going to be for the body mounts. And last time with the X-Acto knife, right there, make sure that's centered, is where that hole's going to go. Sometimes the hardest part about finishing a project is having the guts to do it when you're this close to the end, and if you do it wrong, you'll screw it up and have to start over. So, very important, these last few steps. But it'll turn out really cool. Alright, I'm going to do the rest of this off camera. Make these holes, also make them kind of tight. And it's pretty nice. If it's tight, the body will stay in place even without the pin. You know, the body pin that we'll make go through here later. And I like it because it's snug on there. I don't want to make the hole any bigger than that. So that's perfect. To make these body posts, I got a needle really hot and I shoved it through there, and I'm just going to open the end of it up a little bit with the knife so that a screw will catch in it, and I'll be able to screw that into the body post. I'll need to make one more hole up here for the pin, but this one's for the screw that goes through the side of the mount right here, and that'll hold it in place. Shove that in there, and then I'll put the screw in and it'll be perfect. I'm using one of these pin files here just to line up the screw hole so I know it's in the right place. Now that I know that, I know a screw will go right in there. Alright, I've got the post screw in, and both holes have been burned through with a needle. I got it real hot and just pushed it through there and then cleaned it up. But they're at the same height, and this body is now ready to go on for the first time on its posts. We measured it right, so it's dead on. Really nice. And some people would be done at this point because it's now part of the car, but I'm going to finish it up with the magnets. Remember earlier how we put magnets on the back of the chassis? This is where they come into play now. And what I'm going to do is, let me fix the camera. I'll center that body up on the chassis, and I'm going to use a magnet to tie down the back of the car while I glue the other one on. It's very simple to do that. All you gotta do is get another magnet just like the one that you had and throw it in there. It'll automatically seat by itself right on top of the magnet that you put in earlier. At this point, it's just a matter of centering the back of the car perfectly so that the body sits exactly between the frame rails, and that looks really nice. I like that a lot. So the only thing that is left is to go and put the other side on for now. And how I'm going to do that is I'll figure out which side of the magnet the polarity wants. So I'll temporarily put it on there, and I know that, well, it's going to be black on that. So I'm going to find a black marker and put a black dot on the top of this so that I'll know to glue the other side. Alright, at this point I'm going to put the second magnet on the chassis, and I've got it lined up, I think, just about perfect. I think it's centered pretty much to a millimeter, and I'm going to glue this the first magnet on. This magnet here is just holding the body in place so it doesn't move. And I'm going to use the same method for gluing magnets that I used earlier, holding it with a body clip. I'll put some CA glue on there, basically super glue. I think it's cyanide acrylate, something like that. I don't know. I've used it before when I cut myself. Just glue the skin back together. Works fantastic. That jumped right into place where it wants to be. So I'm going to let that sit for a little bit and let it fully dry before I try to move it. And that way, when I go to glue the second one, it's going to automatically index that one as well from the one that we just put the glue on. So this procedure works really good. Once that's done, there's one final step just to finish up the back of the car, and I'll show you that in a little bit. Okay, it's later enough to do the other magnet, and just in case you're wondering about size, it's 1 1/4 by 1/16 rare earth disc magnets. Got them at Hobbytown. I like the people at Hobbytown in Ankeny, Iowa. They treat me excellent, and really happy that they're doing well this year. It's been a crazy year for hobbies, and most of y'all know that, but everything's selling out and they're doing tremendous business, and I could not be happier for them. Just the RC community here in the Des Moines area is awesome. We've got some great people, and I appreciate all you guys. Alright, we'll do the second magnet. You get it close and it does itself. Alright, that's right where they want to be. And since I did the first magnet first, second magnet second, I just let the body be lined up, and as soon as that magnet goes, it wants to attract to the one beneath it, and man, it's going to be right in place. So from now on, when I install this body, I can just tap the back of this onto those magnets. It'll center it, push the pins through the front, and then throw a body pin in there. It's good to go. If I did this right, that'll go right through there. Might have made the hole a little bit low. I can always make another one. I did make it a bit low. It's okay. I'll just make another hole higher, because I don't want this to be super tight on the car. It doesn't need to be, but it'll be fine. I'll burn another hole through that just to make it a little bit higher up, easier to install if I feel like I need to. There's one pin. Let's see if I have another body pin somewhere while this back dries. There's only one step left and this thing is ready to go. I'm going to put a couple of zip ties right back here, and that way it will give the back of this Lexan something to pull against when I lift the body off of the frame. Otherwise it's going to flex that it'll flex that plastic down. I don't want that happening. So I'll put a hole right here. I'll just ream it out right there, and I'll do one right here, zip tie it, and this car will be finished. See, I've made a hole through the body, and I'm just pulling the zip tie through it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it around so this bulky part here is on the, yeah, I can do that. Tires are inside of that. It shouldn't make any problem whatsoever. Or I can have it be part of the upside of the car. Maybe I'll do that. Nah, I'll put it on the bottom side. That way, as much of the mechanical stuff is hidden. I watch that a lot of car shows on TV where they build things, and I dig it. And I want this one to look clean, so we'll put it on the bottom. That is not something you would even notice if you ever saw the car. You'd think it was part of it from the beginning. And pull that tight, clip it off. Alright, one more to go. I'll get a black magic marker back out. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll leave these magnets clean. I'll wipe that off later, and I'll just have them be part of the car. Since there's other silver parts on it, may as well. And another nice thing about magnets, if you are working on the car and you lose screws, usually you'll find them right there. They stick right to the magnet on the chassis, and they're super easy to find that way. So the last thing is to put one more hole in the body right here in the corner. I want to leave enough plastic that it can get a good pull, have quite a bit of force to be able to hang on to that. Make sure I'm not drilling into where the magnet's going to be on the other side. All right. I'm kind of making this one a little bit oblong. It doesn't need to be round. It just needs to be big enough for a zip tie to pull through. So that's why I'm kind of not going in a complete circle with that one. Let's clean the top of it up a little bit. All right. And you can say you were there when this was finished. Put the pins in. I didn't get this one quite straight, but I don't care. It's fine. Kind of burned it at an angle. I may redo it later just so that the pins line up properly. I may not. I don't know. I don't think it would be noticeable, but it is put together. Everything's on as it should be, ready for the world. Thanks for watching.